Farm City Pro Rodeo, Hermiston, Oregon, and I got a chance to visit with a fellow who I've known for a long time, admired for a long time, never had a chance to work with until this weekend. Benje Bendele, the music director of the year in the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. Garrett Jurgen calls him Benjamin. Welcome. Nice to talk to you.
Oh, thank you. It's glad to be here. It's been a pleasure so far to work with you too.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I think we've had a good time. I don't want to just talk about Hermiston, but I think this has gone really well.
It's gone amazing here at Hermiston over the years. This new facility they have here is unbelievable, and they put a lot of hard work into it. And it's home 1 week out of the year, and I'm glad to be able to come here and call it home.
How many years have you been behind the laptop at the National Finals Rodeo?
22 consecutive years I've been a part of the NFR.
You and I were just talking before we started. Prior to Benji, folks will remember there was a live band. Steve Rempel's live band at the NFR. And then they brought in some music for the bull riding. You were the first one to step in and do what you have done for the last 22 years. You've watched that thing develop into the tightest ship, the greatest production. I'm just amazed at everything that happens at the National Finals Rodeo, and you've been a big part of it.
It's godly. I was in the right place at the right time. Good Lord above gave me the talent to try something new and to tap uncharted waters a little bit. I'm definitely not the first person to come along and play music the way, from cassettes and CDs and, of that nature. But to come along with the computer system and do it in a fashion, it was sent from above. Put me in the right spot at the right time and introduced me to Sean Davis. And, Sean recognized the way it should be too, and the new wave of presenting rodeo that is being presented now.
We have an interesting battle. I want to talk to you about your history and your background and some of those things. We have an interesting challenge, I think, in rodeo, and I think we've done, for the most part, a pretty good job of answering the call. We have this sport that is so traditional with so much history, and we're trying to make sure that we keep up with the modern times and keep it modern and make it a little bit fun and make it a little bit rock and roll. And I think we've done, for the most part, a pretty good job of walking that fine line.
I call it keeping up with the times. There's other sporting events that we have to compete against, and if we're going to keep the younger generation interested in the Western flair, we've got to add a little more modern flair to it as well. And nowadays, you've got some outstanding rodeo music directors that are doing an awesome job in keeping up with those times. There's several of them out there that are just hustling and getting the right music and keeping up with modern music and mixing in a little bit of that older flair as well. I'm going to call it older. It's just traditional flair, and it's great to be in rodeo business right now. It's awesome.
Let me ask you about your beginning. You were actually our announcing director for a long time. You were a rodeo announcer. Now you're full time with Crazy Heart Sound and Lighting. It's not just playing music. It's providing big time sound systems and lighting systems for big time events all over the country. So this has become your full time lifestyle. But take me back to the beginnings. How'd you get here?
Man,
that's a long answer. That's a long answer to a question, isn't it?
I'm just aging myself, here when we talk about it, because I got to think a little bit. I started out wanting to be a rodeo announcer. I watched Phil Gardenhire and Boyd Paul Hamus on horseback, with a wireless mic, the old wireless with the antenna hanging way out the end, and I wanted to do that. I met Boyd Paul Hamus when I was in college. He was in college at the same time. And at the time he was announcing, but he was up in the stand, and I saw him announcing horseback. And, I jumped in with both feet and got on the amateur level trail in Texas and was very, very busy. I kept busy announcing. Wasn't making, at the time, making a living, but I still had to have a job Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before I headed out on the rodeo trail. And hopefully I had enough gas to get to the rodeo and beat the check back on, all the charges I made. But started out as a rodeo announcer and worked for Bob Barnes. Went out on the rodeo trail, joined the PRCA in 1995, and went on the Eastern Seaboard and went out there and rodeoed with the Barnes family. and it was to where I was showing up at places and there wasn't a great sound system. So I bought a sound system while I was announcing, and I got to going well with that. And Mac Altizer called and said, "Hey, we have an announcer, but I hear you have a great sound system. We'd like to hire you, and then I'll use you at some rodeos too." And he did. He kept me busy, taught me a lot about how to use music with rodeo production.
Altizer's productions were pretty rock and roll. They tried really hard to tie music and production together, as I understand it. Am I right?
That's correct. He wanted the rodeo fans to have a different type of experience with rodeo by using that music of today, of yesterday and today, back then in the 80s and the 90s. And it was very popular amongst the Texas rodeo fan base.
Did they once try actually doing a thing where they had their animals named kind of to songs? Am I thinking of the right stock contractor?
Yes, you are. That he didn't try it. He did it. Yeah. He was the first to do that. First to bring modern rock and roll music into the production of Bad Company Rodeo. Their motto was "Expect the unexpected," and they pretty much lived up to that. Every PRCA rodeo performance that Mac Altizer put on.
When I first started announcing, I was like you. I went to a lot of places that had the old Radio Shack horns hanging up, and that was their sound system. And I remember walking in with a cassette tape player or two, and announcing and trying to play music at the same time off of cassette tapes, and then somebody introduced me to mini discs, and I thought, wow, we've hit the big time now. It wasn't very good, to be bluntly honest. Did you? I mean, you were kind of your own sound guy for a while, weren't you?
At the time, it was good. It's all we had. It's all we knew. So we did what we did with the technology of the time. Technology's changed a lot, Steve, in our lifetime. Just yours and my lifetime, and it's going to continue to change before we're gone. But going back to those days, you just organized quicker, and it took you a little bit longer. It's like doing homework as an announcer. I don't miss those days of doing homework, washing a horse, getting ready for a rodeo performance like that. Now it's all in the computer and it's all paged out. It's there no matter what. When you pull it up, it's there as long as the computer turns on.
Yeah. Those were an all-day thing back in the good old days, weren't they?
They were. That's how it was when I went to work for Mac Altizer. You had to cue every tape, rewind it all the way, stick their pencil into that little hole, and twist it back a quarter turn.
I'm laughing because I remember all this.
And then you're right, you got to the CDs, and we were a little quicker on things, but you were still limited. You were limited on your sound effects, and then we got into the computer, and all of a sudden the sky's the limit. You can, as long as you can get to it fast enough, it can happen. I think production in rodeo has sped up tremendously now. We're constantly, there's more sponsors to throw in, so the announcers are having to say more. We're not competing, we're getting along with each other, but sometimes there's not enough space for all those sound effects I used to play 20 years ago.
You've got two announcers here, me and Garrett Yerrigan in Hermiston. And Garrett I have learned so much from Garrett the last 3 days. I don't tell him I said that, but he's got his stuff together, doesn't he?
He does. He knows a lot. He comes from a background, of rodeo production. So with his dad, being a steer wrestler and now the president of the association that he's involved with. But Garrett has an amount of knowledge in his head.
Production knowledge that is second to none. Cody Sosby's here as a clown. You've got Marty Campbell, who lives here in this area, interviewing for the in-house audience and for television. We got a lot of moving parts, and none of us are competing. That's the fun thing about it. You do some different things here in Hermiston. You're in our ear the entire time of the rodeo, and it's been just I can tell that the rodeo announcer thing in you really makes your life easier as now the music director.
My whole career has been better because of my history as a rodeo announcer. I know when you're going to post up. I know when you're going to take a breath, and I can just sense it. It's not that I've never worked with you before, but yet we have not competed. We have not walked all over. Not once have you walked over a sound effect or a hype song, and same with me. I haven't walked over you either with the music, but yeah, it's a merger, so to speak. It's working out well.
Benji, talk to me about as we continue to develop in rodeo and as we continue to develop the Western way of life. You and Garrett were talking the other day about that big rodeo in Sioux Falls at the end of September and going through all the specifics about where lights are going to go and this and that and the other thing. Um, I think that the show aspect, the production aspect, and the continued awareness that I hope more and more rodeo committees will develop about production and about I can envision a day where every rodeo committee's got a red hat, got a person who is the production manager, who is kind of the liaison between everything that's happening, the production truck, the video, the music, the announcers, the whole bit. I think we're headed in that direction with a lot of these events. What we are doing, this is a really long-winded question, but what we're doing with production in rodeo continues to improve and continues to make this, I think, a product that maybe is part of the reason we've got sold-out crowds all over the place everywhere.
Well,
how's that for a long-winded, rambling question?
the production has definitely gotten better everywhere. I don't. I'm not involved with a rodeo committee anymore that doesn't have a production manager of some sort. A lot of times it's the announcer. That's the production. He runs the meetings and says, kind of explains what we're going to do. But most of the time there is a local person that is the leader that says we're going to do this here, we're going to do that there. I think I'm going to get off a little bit on what I think is attested to our sold-out crowds at most rodeos that you either see on TV or that you attend. The attendance is up. And
everywhere.
Yeah, it is. And it's because, in my opinion, it's because of what we're seeing on TV. I will contribute to the Cowboy Channel for our attendance being up, but I also think that it's because of Yellowstone. Everybody wants to be a Rip. They want to be a Dutton. Everybody's in love with Beth, which I am. I think she's awesome, the character. And when we have those types of things that people to watch, the urban people to watch, and see that the Western lifestyle is there, they're seeing that we pray. We have a national anthem, and we don't force it on anybody, but we ask them to join us. The Cowboy Channel's putting that on as well. And when that is truly America's number one sport, when we aren't scared to do stuff like that. And you think back when years ago when we had the movie Urban Cowboy and other shows, Gillies, down in Houston, and all that was filmed there. And we had Pure Country with George Strait. Our numbers were up then.
I thought when Garth Brooks became really popular, there was, I don't know, all of this happened at about the same time period you're talking about. We experienced a resurgence during all of that.
Exactly. So I contribute, Cowboy Channel's definitely helped, a lot. It's helped the contestants with their sponsorships. They can promote themselves a little better. Hey, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be there. Social media has also helped, So it's a bunch of contributing factors. The fact that we just come off of, we're finally free of COVID bullshit, and pardon my French, but we're out of that. People are wanting to get out and do things. I'm excited to be part of the rodeo industry and what I do. I'm excited to be part of the concert industry and what we do as well there.
I wanted to ask you about that because Crazy Heart Sound and Lighting is not just rodeo. How expansive are you? Do you ever see your home, or are you gone all the time? Kind of take me through the business of what you do. And how many events outside of rodeo?
I'm still doing rodeo events. I probably do 20, 21 events a year, and just rodeos where we hang sound or we hang lights at rodeos, indoor pins and stuff, and I play the music. Right now we have a concert on a floating stage going on in Texas City. That I have a crew down there, and your question is, do I ever see home? I do. I've structured my rodeo run to where I can be home a little bit more. I'm not doing as many rodeos, and I'm home on, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we're gone to another. Then I'm home again, a weekly in the fall and in the spring. I'm not as busy on the road continuously as I was, you know, 10 years ago. I've gotten into the concerts and the staging. Uh, we have a couple of mobile stages. We do concert events, do sound for those, do lighting for those. I have a crew that, you know, we have a couple of trucks and semi trailers, and I got into that because I saw my age. I mean, it's mostly because of age and not one.
You're still a kid, Benji.
No, I feel like a kid, but I know that's not true. And you know, it's a business now. It's not like when I was 20. It was fun then. You know, it's fun now still. Don't get me wrong, but it's a business, and I've got a lot more responsibilities now than I did back then. So branching off a little bit into something else. I have the equipment. I have, you know, what it takes to put on those types of non-rodeo events. I have the stages, so why not full force go into that? I've got, you know, several people hired that work those things for me, and a lot of times I'm at those events as well. Um, you know, I'll get home. I'll go from here to Caldwell, Idaho, and work that rodeo. Then I'll go to Pueblo, and then I'm down in Texas for a run through September and October of concerts and rodeos down there.
Let me ask you two final questions. You made reference earlier to the number of, there are 700 plus rodeos in the PRCA. A talented music director can have work all the time. Somebody with a really good sound system can have work all the time because there aren't nearly as many music directors, obviously, as there are events to produce. But there really are. I think every week it seems like I work with somebody whose style is a little bit different, but who is right there on top of everything. That one click of the mouse in a totally unscripted event brings up exactly the right song at the right time. There are a bunch of really talented music directors out there right now.
I agree, there are, and you know, I think that that we all make each other better because of the Cowboy Channel. People can watch the Cowboy Channel and they see, well, they did this, did that, you know, here, there. I don't want to call it copying, but there is a lot of imitation going on out there. Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with that. That's a form of flattery. I don't think you should get upset with that type of thing. I just think you just need to try to use your own ideas. And, you know, if you take somebody's idea and use it, okay, you know, that's fine with me. I think that the music business in rodeo is wide. It's wide open. Whatever we only have so many songs we can all select from. Sure. It's not like I have a certain set that I select from. You have a certain set. We all pick from the same bucket, and it's a matter of using our ideas and what we feel that song should be used for, and it's different. But from music director to music director.
How many songs do you have on your computer?
I have over 8,000 edits and clips of music.
I asked that last night. Of all the things to come up, it just totally impromptu. Nobody planned it. Cody Sosby does an act last night where we end up pulling somebody out of the crowd, and he admits that he's a lineman on First Responder Night. And Cody started talking about football, and you whisper in my ear, "I don't think that's a football player." And where I'm going with this is we ended up at some point working this back around to Glenn Campbell's old Wichita lineman song, which was recorded in 1969 or something like that. You'd never think you'd hear that at a rodeo, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's just my brain thinking. Yeah. I'm trying to always help the production, whether it's helping you, help Garrett. A lot of times, and here I'm way behind y'all in a room, so we can't. We don't have we don't have where we can just talk to each other side by side. Yeah. But I'm able to talk to you in your ear, and that's just me thinking of things to do. I do that a lot with some announcers, and sometimes they'll use it, and sometimes they don't. It's another one of those things where, okay, if you don't want to use it, that's fine. But I thought that was a cool little jab, you know, to kind of finish that act off by using that song because he was a lineman for the county, and we played it for him.
On First Responder Night. I wanted to do this because here in the background, this is Benji's office during the rodeo in Hermiston. The great big mixing board, the laptop, the whole bit is set up right there. So that's what he's dealing with during the course of every rodeo performance all year long. Last question, I promise. You won that Music Director of the Year award last year. Your first time, I think. How'd that feel?
It felt amazing. I was most proud to be standing up next to 4 of my colleagues side by side. I wish we all could have won that award. I just happened to win it this year, and I was honored. It was a privilege to have my name called out, and then to be able to speak to everybody in the room the way I did, and it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, and I am so honored to be part of an industry like we're part of. It's just good people, people that care, people that want to put on a great show, and they don't want to just come to town and get the money and run. The contestants, they care, and it's the last of a dying breed, is what they say the cowboy is, and we're trying to keep it alive, and I think right now we're keeping it alive and doing a good job of it.
I agree. I think we're succeeding. Thank you. I appreciate it. Benje Bendele, the Music Director of the Year, the man who has been behind the laptop at the National Finals Rodeo for a long time, and the fellow behind Crazy Heart Sound and Lighting. Thank you for joining us on the Steve Kenyon Podcast.